Hi, Todd Garneau here with Three Creeks Capital. Today I'm going to talk to you about a phone call that I received from an Ohio public employee that had questions about decisions they were getting ready to make as they approached their retirement date here in the next few months. What they called about and what I shared with them were really two different things. So let's go through what they originally thought they were calling about. First was they had an Ohio deferred comp and a PLOP, and they wanted to roll that into a traditional IRA. The next was they talked about the investments they were going to put in there, and it was very general, like an S&P index, some international, and some dividend stocks. So really kind of unclear there. And then they had concerns about taxes and any mistakes they were going to make. This is how that initial call started. But then through a series of questions, I found another probably 3 or 4 things that they needed to think about in general. And this is where I find a lot of people, when they are retiring, are thinking too surface level. And making sure you get all these pieces and parts correct is really important so that it doesn't cost you on the back end after you've retired. So let's go through the things that I think this person needed to think about and brought up. So the person that called was 59 and the spouse was 54. Okay, so what's the first thing that I think about? Well, he wanted to roll over some money, and so the first thing I thought about was this 59.5. If he were taking money out of the traditional IRA, he'd be penalized, a 10% penalty. So maybe you should just leave it there until you hit at least 59.5, or if you roll it over, don't take any money out so you don't pay the extra 10% penalty. So that was the first thing I thought of. The next was at 65, okay? And then last but not least at 75. So in our conversation around all of these things is about distributions. So I want to take money from my IRA and I want to do it in a way that doesn't hurt me from a tax standpoint, which is something everyone should consider. So 59, we get around that. Why do we have to think about 65 and 75? First is, here is Medicare Part B. Our premiums that we pay from Part B are means tested. So based on the amount of income we have coming in, determines our monthly premium. So we don't want to take out too much out of this and hurt ourselves here. Or we need to develop a distribution strategy from this point to this point and take out just enough each year and maybe do Roth conversions so that when we get to RMD eligible, our RMD is a lot less at 75 than if we were just to let the account grow, because when that RMD kicks out to us, that's all income, and that income could then drive our Med B premiums higher. Here's the other thing. It was never brought up to the very end, but it's the most important thing that this person has to think about. The most important. It's the number one mistake that everybody makes, and I saw this the whole time. The 7 years that I worked at the pension systems, guess what? This was the number one mistake. I asked which joint survivor annuity, which retirement benefit are you picking and leaving to your spouse? How much is this person going to get when you pass away? And he said, I don't know. I have no clue. If you're close to retirement, you must pick the right plan of payment for you and your spouse. Why? You want the most income while you're alive, and in the event someone predeceases the other person, you don't leave that person hanging. When you go in to choose your joint and survivor annuity, it is irrevocable, okay? So you cannot undo this decision. You have to get this right. And this is what I told the caller is, I want to have a conversation with them about this before we talk about any of this other stuff. But again, remember, as an Ohio public employee, it's not simply filling out the application and making a couple little decisions to get all this stuff right. It's much more complicated. We're here to help. We've been helping Ohio public employees now for 25 years get this stuff right. Give us a call today and we'll get you to the finish line. Thank you.